One company just became the first in human history to be worth $5 trillion. That's NVIDIA, and it did it selling shovels for the AI gold rush. Meanwhile, a college student with a computer science degree can't get a callback, and a 20-year-old education company called Chegg just laid off nearly half its staff because a free chatbot ate its entire business. That is the economics of AI in one breath. The biggest wealth creation event of our lifetime, happening at the exact same time as one of the strangest labor squeezes in modern history. Today, I'm going to show you exactly who's winning, who's losing, and which jobs are actually disappearing, with the real numbers and the real studies. Let's get into it. First, you have to understand the sheer scale of money flowing into AI, because nothing else makes sense without it. In 2026, the biggest tech companies, Amazon, Microsoft, Google, Meta, and Oracle, are on track to spend somewhere around $700 billion combined on capital expenditures, mostly AI data centers, chips, and networking. Amazon alone guided to about $200 billion in capex for the year. Analysts at Bank of America and Evercore now think total AI capital spending could top $1 trillion in 2027. To put that in perspective, Harvard economist Jason Furman crunched the numbers and found that investment in information processing equipment and software is just 4% of GDP, but it was responsible for 92% of GDP growth in the first half of last year. GDP, excluding those categories, grew at a 0.1% annual rate. Read that again. Strip out the AI buildout, and the US economy basically flatlined in the first half of 2025. One analyst joked that our economy is 3 AI data centers in a trench coat. But here's the tension, and it's the single most important thing to understand. The spending is wildly ahead of the revenue. Sequoia's David Kahn estimates the industry needs to generate roughly $600 billion a year to justify current spending. Actual AI revenue right now is a fraction of that. OpenAI is doing around $20 billion a year in revenue, but committed to $1.4 trillion in data center spending over 8 years, and expects to keep losing money for years. That gap is why serious people are using the B word, bubble. Ray Dalio compared it to the dot-com era. Michael Burry, the guy from The Big Short, is betting against it. Even OpenAI's own Sam Altman said a bubble exists. On the other side, Morgan Stanley calls the fears premature. JP Morgan says it doesn't meet the classic bubble criteria, and Fed Chair Jerome Powell notes these companies generate real revenue, unlike the dot-coms. So even the smartest people in the room genuinely disagree. So who's actually winning? Let's follow the money. Winner number 1, the chipmakers. NVIDIA is the defining winner of this entire era. In October 2025, it became the first company ever worth $5 trillion, up from about $1 trillion in mid-2023. Its data center revenue hit record highs, growing over 90% year over year. And CEO Jensen Huang says the company has visibility into $500 billion in chip orders. NVIDIA is now worth more than the entire GDP of Germany. Right behind it is Taiwan Semiconductor, TSMC, the company that actually manufactures these chips. Its full year 2025 revenue was $122 billion, up nearly 32%. And in its most recent quarter, net profit jumped a staggering 77% year over year to a record, as demand for the chips it makes for NVIDIA and Apple showed no sign of cooling. CEO C.C. Wei called AI demand extremely robust and said he expects it to stay strong until around 2029 or 2030. TSMC crossed the $2 trillion market cap milestone, becoming Asia's most valuable public company. Add Broadcom, AMD, and memory makers like Micron and SK Hynix, and the whole supply chain is lighting up. Winner number 2, the cloud giants and AI labs. Microsoft and Apple both crossed $4 trillion in market value, and the AI labs have seen eye-watering valuations. Anthropic raised money at a valuation approaching $1 trillion, with its revenue run rate exploding from around $10 billion to $47 billion in roughly a year, driven by its coding tool, Claude Code. OpenAI sits around the $850 billion mark. Winner number 3, the sleeper. energy and infrastructure. AI data centers are ravenously hungry for power. The International Energy Agency found data center electricity use rose about 17% in 2025, over 5 times faster than overall electricity demand. That's created a boom for power companies. Constellation Energy signed a 20-year deal with Microsoft to restart the 3 Mile Island nuclear plant, plus a deal with Meta for another. Vistra, NextEra, and GE Vernova are riding the same wave. This is the picks and shovels story. Even if nobody knows which AI app wins, everyone needs chips, power, and cooling. Winner number 4. Certain workers. Machine learning engineers and AI specialists are commanding 7-figure pay packages at top firms. The World Economic Forum projects AI and machine learning specialists, big data specialists, and fintech engineers as the fastest growing roles this decade. And winner number 5. Countries. The US and China dominate. Taiwan, through TSMC, is central, and Gulf states are pouring sovereign wealth into AI infrastructure. Now the painful part. Who's losing? The clearest corporate casualty is Chegg. The homework help company watched students abandon paid subscriptions for free ChatGPT. In October 2025, it laid off about 45% of its workforce, 388 employees, citing, in its own words, the new realities of AI and reduced traffic from Google to content publishers. Its stock is down roughly 99% from its peak. Chegg is the textbook example of a company whose entire product got absorbed by a chatbot. Then there's outsourcing and call centers. This is huge and underreported. India and the Philippines built middle classes on business process outsourcing. India's industry employs around 6 million people. The Philippines sector employs around 2 million and generates $40 billion a year. Now voice AI handles calls with almost no delay, in any accent, 24/7. Analysts project millions of these jobs are at risk by 2030, and Gartner projects that by 2029, agentic AI will autonomously resolve 80% of common customer service issues without human intervention. Some software companies are getting squeezed as AI commoditizes what they sell. Salesforce and ServiceNow both saw sharp share price drops in early 2026. And creative marketplaces, stock photography, freelance copywriting, translation, basic graphic design are under direct pressure because generative AI produces images and text for pennies. And the losers include specific workers at big companies. IBM's CEO said AI chatbots took over the work of a few hundred HR employees. Salesforce cut thousands of roles citing AI. CrowdStrike laid off about 500 people and directly named AI. But here's the honest nuance. The outplacement firm Challenger, Gray, and Christmas reported AI was responsible for about 55,000 announced layoffs in 2025, a small slice of the 1.2 million total US job cuts that year, which were up 58% from 2024. And some firms overpromised. Klarna bragged its AI did the work of 700 agents, then quietly started rehiring humans when quality dropped. So which jobs are actually at risk? Here the research is genuinely alarming. The landmark study came from Stanford's Digital Economy Lab in 2025, titled Canaries in the Coal Mine. Researchers, including economist Eric Brynjolfsson, analyzed payroll data covering millions of workers. They found that for the most AI-exposed jobs, customer service, accounting, software development, there's a 13% relative decline in employment for workers aged 22 to 25 compared to the least exposed jobs, even after controlling for firm-level shocks. For young software developers specifically, employment fell nearly 20%. Meanwhile, older, experienced workers in the same fields held steady or grew. The data backs this up. According to the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, the unemployment rate for recent college graduates hit about 5.7% in the fourth quarter of 2025, versus roughly 4.2% overall, reversing the decades-old pattern where grads did better than the broader workforce. Computer science grads specifically are seeing elevated unemployment. There's even a New York Times headline about student coders seeking work at Chipotle. What kinds of tasks? The Anthropic Economic Index, which studies millions of real Claude conversations, found usage heavily concentrated in coding and writing, and that roughly 49% of jobs had at least a quarter of their tasks performed using Claude. Translation and interpretation showed some of the highest levels of full automation. Zoom out and the big forecasts agree on the categories. Goldman Sachs estimated 300 million jobs globally are exposed to automation, with office and administrative support, legal, and engineering most exposed. And the World Economic Forum's Future of Jobs report projects 170 million new roles created and 92 million displaced by 2030, a net increase of 78 million jobs. The jobs most at risk share a pattern. Desk jobs built on routine, codified knowledge. Data entry, basic customer service, junior coding, copywriting, translation, paralegal document review, entry-level graphic design, and back-office admin. But, and this matters, Goldman's own economists note that as of 2025, there was still no massive AI signature in the aggregate labor data. Most of the pain is concentrated at the entry level, not across the whole workforce. So which jobs are safe? The pattern is the mirror image. The safest jobs require physical presence, human trust, or hands-on judgment in messy, unpredictable environments. Skilled trades top the list: electricians, plumbers, HVAC technicians, welders. The Bureau of Labor Statistics projects electricians to grow about 9%, faster than average, with extra demand coming from data centers and EV charging. Someone has to wire all those AI facilities. Even NVIDIA's Jensen Huang has said tradespeople are set to win. Healthcare is the other fortress. Nurses, physical therapists, physician assistants, mental health counselors, roles the World Economic Forum projects will grow strongly as populations age. And jobs requiring high-level judgment, creativity, and relationship building hold up. The Stanford study confirmed it. Workers in hands-on jobs like health aides and maintenance workers saw employment hold steady or grow. So what does all this actually mean for you? 3 takeaways. 1. We're living through a real economic revolution, but the money and the productivity gains are extremely concentrated in a handful of chip, cloud, and energy companies. 2. The job disruption is real but uneven, and it's hitting the bottom of the career ladder hardest, which is dangerous because that's how people used to climb. And 3. History says technology destroys jobs and creates new ones. The World Economic Forum's net positive of 78 million jobs is real, but the transition is brutal for the people caught in the gap. The move, whatever you do, is to become the person who uses AI rather than the person AI replaces. Learn the tools. Build the human skills machines can't copy: judgment, trust, physical presence, creativity. If this breakdown helped you make sense of the chaos, do me a favor and hit that like button and subscribe, because I'm tracking this story as it unfolds. And drop a comment. Is your job on the winning side or the losing side? I read every one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.